Hello and welcome back to Temmie Bear Plays, and it's a new year, so you know what that means? New Digimon sets. We got the new Time Stranger BT24 Digimon set. We're gonna get right into the opening. As always with a new set, we have our pre-release event cards. But also this time we have a dashback. We'll do that one last. So starting with the pre-release cards, as always, this is going to be one uncommon and one rare. And what I'm going to be looking for myself is probably the Guillemon cards. That's really the only really important stuff I care about from this set in terms of getting higher rarity of. It's that and the Ryutamon line, because I also do like Alphamon and X antibody stuff. Other than that, I don't know, probably some Liberator stuff with the Medusamon. I know I have friends that like that, and just in general, getting some Iliad stuff. I have some friends who are interested in that. But let's take a look. We do have Biomon, the new Appmon for Hadesmon. It's a level 5, so that's pretty good. And we get a 7th Gravitation. This is for the Creepymon X antibody. Alright, alright. I've said this before, but yeah, I don't know why they do the rares pre-release. Ooh, we got Lamiamon for the Medusamon Liberator. And behind that, we have Hiroko Sagisaka, which is one of the new Time Stranger tamers. Keep going. We got ourselves a Skull Greymon. This is for the new Titan stuff, again from Time Strangers. It also has some synergy with demons, but mostly going to be probably used for Titamon because of the inherit, referring to Titamon or Titan trait. And behind that we have Rei Katsura. That's the Appmon tamer. And then last but not least, we have Blimpmon. Honorary Impmon right there. And just a general machine cyborg support. It's always nice to see. And then behind that we've got Revivemon. So we actually have both of the level 5s for Hades as release event stamped. That's interesting. And then now we go to the 2026 dashback. This is basically just the 2 exclusive alt arts, one for China, one for Japan, for the World Convergence set. If people recall, you can get the alt arts for Medusa, Gaia, and Galactic. They were different in North America versus Japan versus China, and people complained, which fair. It's World Convergence, and then you make exclusive alt arts. That was a terrible idea, in my opinion. This is to balance that back, and they're like, okay, here you go. You get a dash pack for buying a box. Ideally 2, but my store ran out of 2, so they were giving just 1 out each. And then you can get one of those 6 alts. So personally, I just know people who are interested in Medusa, but maybe even Galactic. So we'll see what we get over here. Wow. Galactic. Ooh. And it's a pretty Galactic. I like this one more than the other Galactic alt, but that's personal. And I'm not alting the deck anyway, so it doesn't super matter to me. But there we go. Better than having the Gaiamon. Because even though I'm playing that deck, I don't think that deck does too much. Set those aside, and we'll get into opening the box. So as always in opening the box, I'll talk about my hopes and dreams. I would really prefer to get the Homeros secret rare, if I were to get a secret rare, because I feel like that card is going to go up in price, because that can do some crazy stupid stuff with Venusmon because of triggering the one evolving. And also in general, tamers, especially highly playable tamers, can get pretty expensive. Like for example, the Tai. But we do have a box stopper. It's 4 cards per pack. They just start chuffing everything in one box stopper. So in this, we're going to be getting new promos, unfortunately. But new promos, including the Sakuyamon, including the card that you're seeing here, with the Digilab. Also be getting the typical full art stuff of things in the set. For example, I know Ryutamon is here, and as well as the Petrification token, since Medusamon is here. So I think we get 2 of each of those criterium. So there we go, Muchomon from BT24, full art, and a petrification token. Like to see that. I like having the official tokens. And then we have Rosemon, and we'd ideally like to see Sakuyamon because that's, I'm guessing, Kuzuhamon, sorry. And I'm guessing that's going to be expensive due to the Sakuyamon's popularity. We have Millenniumon. Unfortunately, these are probably the cheapest two, I think. But Millenniumon is pretty cool because they made it a lot more synergistic with other pieces. As long as you're doing any composite, Wicked God, DM, version 3, version 5, and you can play out to it's pretty good in terms of that. And then the Rosemon is for the Wind Guardians, which is questionable in terms of how playable it is, but if people enjoy it, it's a pretty good addition, especially because all the other VPET traits did get promos earlier when Guardians just didn't because it came out later. So it's nice to see. And it can be played in a Rosemont deck. And now to the meat of this. So let's start going through. So this set, obviously, Time Stranger is going to be focused around the Time Stranger guys and girls and the new Digimon therein. So we're seeing here, these are all Time Stranger cards. Every once in a while you get something like this, which is like for one new thing that they wanted to support. In this case, it's Skull Sadamon, which is support for the Creepymon stuff. Something I find interesting is that we do have Lanamon and Calamaramon, which are hybrids that cannot evolve on Tamers. At least Calamaramon can't. But pretty good if you like aquatic stuff because it's jamming and good on plays. And we have Alekmon and right off the bat with a secret rare Jupitermon. Just getting a sleeve for that real quick. And there we go. The new Jupitermon. This does seem kind of cracked. I do want to try out the new Jupitermon list. It has on play and when evolving, you trash your top security card. And then you give minus 13k to one of your opponent's Digimon until their turn ends. So that's great. And then if you have one or fewer security card, you recover 2. And then you also have all turns when your security stack is removed from, you trash your opponent's top security card. So that's also removing something from your opponent's security. And then when any of your TS trait Digimon or Tamers would leave the battle area by trashing your top security card, they don't leave, which is good protection. The other thing important to note for the one evolving, it says trash your top security card and one of your opponent's Digimon gets minus 13k. So even if you cannot trash your top security card, you have 0 security, you still do the minus 13k, and then you still recover plus 2. It's pretty good. So I'll put our hits over here. And we'll keep going. I feel like it's quite rare to have such a hit early on. That's nice to see. We have a bunch of new stuff again for TS, Iliad. There's a whole bunch of different Olympus 12, and then we have new Seekers, Digipolice, which has been a while for Seekers. Then we have new Liberator, Medusamon, and Marukimon, another one of those Olympus 12. The other Olympus 12 stuff, other than Jupitermon in this set, all have an ability to reduce their play cost to effectively 7 if you meet some kind of criteria. For Marukimon, it's if there are 3 or more Digimon. That is both on your field and on your opponent's. You reduce the play cost by 5, so it makes it 7. And then on play 1 evolving, you suspend 2 opponent's Digimon or Tamers. Then one of your Digimon gets 5k for the turn and attacks your opponent's Digimon only. When evolving and when attacking, one of your Digimon may unsuspend, and your turn all of your Iliad trait Digimon gain Rush and Piercing. So even if it's the only thing on the board, you can swing. So decent card. We'll sleeve that up real quick as well. And I'll keep going. So we do have the Hadesmon here, which will be one of the last 2. We will only expect one more Appmon card, which is going to be the green. And then after that, I don't know if they're going to actually print more Appmon support. I'm curious if they will. We have a new Digimon, which is the Master Blimpmon. And we have Agio Chusmon. This is going to be important for that Jupitermon deck, as well as maybe even any other Olympus 12 TS. but also has the Dragonkin type as a rule. So that's interesting to note as well. You might be able to do some silly stuff with that. It has security +1, and when evolving, one of your opponent's Digimon gets -5k for the turn. If you have 3 or fewer security cards, delete one of your opponent's Digimon with 7k or less. And it has Sec +1 and Decode from Agumon, which is the new champion that is revolved around Time Stranger, for those of you who played it. Gatomon, Garurumon, Locomon, Protecmon, Kokirimon, Tsunamon, New Vetamon, still TS though. So TS feels like a lot like CS, where you have a ton of tamers, a ton of Digimon, ton of options, ton of top end, and you just need to figure out how you want to build it. Asuna says, if you have 4 or less memory, returning this tamer to the bottom deck, you may play Asuna Shiroki, so another one of itself, or level 4 lower Digimon with TS trait, or 3 Musketeers from your trash without paying the cost. And then on play, it has by trashing 1 card with 3 Musketeers in its text or TS trait from your hand, draw 2. So this is the other thing that a lot of these cards have, which I think did better than the CS stuff, is that they do still synergize with old support for whatever their random archetype is. In this case, Asuna synergizing with 3 Musketeers. Synergizing with 3 Musketeers. And I think that's actually pretty good synergy because you get to play a level 4 or lower 3 Musketeer in text at the start of main if you have 4 or less memory. So that means you can play the old Deputymon and immediately go into a level 6, which is, I think, pretty strong given how weak 3 Musketeers is. And we have Owen Dreadmouth. It has the typical new Liberator Tamer text to start a main. By returning him to the bottom deck, you can play an Owen Dreadmouth from your hand. And then if you don't have a Digimon, you can play a Lizamon from your trash. And also has your turn when any of your Digimon evolve into a reptile or dragonkin. You can suspend him and they get 3k and attack. So that's pretty good. Unfortunately, Close seems to still be the only one that can suspend at start of main and then bottom deck herself. All these other ones aren't able to. I wonder if that was a mistake for the Close, but we'll see. And behind that, we have Divermon. For me, building with this deck, it feels a lot like the previous set, where there's like a couple cards here and there that I'm interested in, like maybe Ginryumon. Even though I worry that it's not going to be good for Alphamon, I'm going to try doing that. But you also have stuff like Growlmon, where it synergizes with Trash, but this is a lot more purple Tamer based. So if you have fewer cards in your hand, you can play a purple Tamer. It is Megidramon support, but they're trying to restrict it a lot more than the previous support was. Yeah, cards like that where I'm interested in for decks I already cared about. Other than that, I'm probably not going to be touching it, other than to build the best meta deck. In this case, probably Jupiter would be the strongest thing out of this. Alternatively, it's going to be the Venusmon Loop shenanigans. Build those, and whoa, we have the In-Between Theater. Interrupted Myself is a very pretty option card with the TS. You can ignore its color requirements if you have a TS, and then you reveal the top 3 of your deck, add 1 card with the TS, and then the rest to the bottom, delay gain 2 memory. So obviously, it's the memory boost type for the TS, and we got it. And I completely forgot that we get an alt art for this as well. So we got our 2 main hits. Now to see what SRs we get. Gonna keep going and we're gonna be blitzing through these a lot more. But what I was saying was I'm gonna, you have the Venusmon loop and the Jupitermon, which can go pretty crazy. Other than that, I'm probably not gonna be building anything from here unless I get super enticed. Here we have the regular art for the in-between theater. I might mess around with Medusamon, I might mess around with Creepymon. Honestly, seems a little fun. I might mess around with some of the Titan stuff with the Skull Bellucci plus Titamon, or Titamon plus Skull Bellucci, I should say. And I also might mess around with Hades. Hades seems interesting as well, but Aphmon is always going to be a little bad. So I'm probably going to mess around with a little bit of those here and there, but Unfortunately, because of how focused this is, and if you're not interested in what it's focused in on, then you're not going to really enjoy this set. So we have, ooh, Crossroad Witch. This is Shu Yulin, for those of you who know. I could have sworn her hair wasn't this red, but it's fine. She gives Alliance and Reboot for the Mind Link, and it's a start of main if your opponent has a Digimon gain a memory. And then we have Agumon. Let's go. This is going to be probably a necessary 4 of in most Olympus 12/Iliad lists. It gives barrier, which is pretty strong, and then it has one moving, so promotion, on play, and one evolving. By adding your top security to the hand, you can play a TS Tamer from your hand without paying the cost, and it can't play Tamers with the same name as any of your other Tamers on your board. So that's pretty nice. So that plus we have the promo one means that you have actually a decent level 4 base. People, by the way, just so you're aware, are playing the promo Boutmon, which had basically zero play until right now because everything cares about having lower security and it takes security to evolve into shamans, and both Jupitermon and Venusmon are shamans. And we have new Medussamon. It has raid, progress, and piercing. I love these keywords. They're so good. I'm surprised they didn't have this before. And then when evolving, you delete your opponent's Digimon with the lowest DP. And then by returning 2 cards from their trash to the bottom of the deck, they play 2 petrification tokens. And then after that, this Digimon gets plus 2k for each of your opponent's Digimon until their turn ends. So it gets really big after piercing through something or just evolving and deleting something. And then you're also playing 2 petrification tokens that can't suspend, and so you can still raid over them if you really want to. And the petrification tokens have the on deletion trash your top security card. It's a pretty good addition for the Medusa deck, in my opinion. The other thing Medusa gets is obviously the level 7 in this set, which I think can help it close out games a lot faster than it currently can. But as I was saying, it's pretty nice to see such focused sets, because then for people who are interested in Time Stranger because they played the game and they're like, wow, there's a TCG for this, they could just buy this box basically, and then they get a bunch of stuff. And they get basically the stuff just for that set. And we have Sharkmon, another newer Digimon that's not used very often. But overall, my opinion on the set, for those of you who watched my latest video going over my recap of 2025 and how I feel about the game overall, this is the kind of stuff that is my worry for the Digimon card game's longevity. Real quick though, we have a new Sophimon. One of your opponent's Digimon gets minus 5k, then one of your Digimon may attack. If you're DNA evolving, one of your Digimon gets plus 1 and plus 5k, which is, I think, is really big for Sophimon, because Sylphimon just didn't have the aggression on its own. Plus, you have the similar template to Shakomon, where it has all turns when this Digimon would leave the battle area. Other than by your effect, you may play a level 4 or lower yellow, red, or TS from sources without paying the cost, and that's the effect on it and on Inherit. So that's pretty nice. Oh, and we have Diaboromon X. We haven't seen that many other Diaboromon cards. I think we did see a Karamon. But Diaboromon X is also pretty good. Addition, one of the other like kind of one-off supports in this set. It overclocks with unidentified. So again, that's token or any basically Digimon in your deck because they're all unidentified. It has blocker, and then when evolving, you de-digivolve one of their Digimon for each of your Digimon, which you're going to have a wide board as Diaboromon, and then you delete all your opponent's Digimon with the highest play cost. So ideally, they have one tower and like another weenie, you bring them all down to the same level, and then you delete all of them because they have the same play cost. And then it also has, when any of your Digimon with Diaboromon in their names would leave the battle area, you may play one Diaboromon from your hand or this Digimon's evolution cards without paying the cost. You don't prevent the deletion, but you still get to play it out. And if it is still getting deleted, then whatever you're playing out might still see it get removed and have some sort of effect. Depends on card to card. And so it gets to spit out the Diaboromon that's underneath it, which I think is really good. Plus the overclock is always good to close out games. It unfortunately doesn't have the trait. It doesn't have the rule to treat it as Diaboromon. So all the stuff that says, you know, like for example, the Kurosarimon that gives rush to things with the same name, that's not going to work because that's a Diaboromon X antibody, not just a Diaboromon. You have Sylphimon and Oryumon. So this is a new Oryumon. It has Piercing and Blocker. When evolving, you reveal the top three. You may play at cost 7 or lower, Digipolice or Seeker, and then you return the rest to the top or bottom. And then when any Digimon or Tamer suspend, both yours and your opponents, you Digivolve to one of your opponent's Digimon, which is really big because that's, when they're attacking, for example. And if you recall, you also have some ways to force an attack on your opponent's stuff. So pretty good card. I don't think it was going to make Seeker's valid playstyle. And for those who don't remember, back in BT21, we had the Fenry as well as the Pulsemon as Seeker lines. So this is just another Seeker line to help support that playstyle for those who are interested. Deramon and Venusmon. Here we go. This is not the Venusmon I'm talking about. When I'm talking about what I'm worried about in the meta, it's not this Venusmon, it's the previous older BT, I think it was 10 Venusmon. That's the one that's scary. But this one can be played for 7 if you have 3 or fewer security cards. And then on play, you trash all evolution cards of one of your opponent's Digimon. And then until their turn ends, 2 of their Digimon or Tamers can't suspend or activate one evolving effect. Pretty good effect, but the issue with that compared to the old Venusmon is the old Venusmon just gives Sec -1 to the whole board, meaning even something that's coming out of raising. And then anything with Sec plus or minus afflicted on it, so including the Sec -1 that Venusmon adds, cannot activate when evolving or when attacking, or attack this Venusmon, which is extremely debilitating compared to this Venusmon. It also has all turns when any of your TS trait would leave the battle area, other than by your effect. By placing one other Digimon with no evolution card as the bottom security card, they don't leave. So obviously you debilitate something, they're forced to keep it on the board because they can't swing with it. And then you also, if they're going to remove your guy, you then throw it into security. And so you utilize it. Or you throw one of your own stuff in security. This is the Caramon X antibody. You don't get any other Diaboromon X support, but it has one moving, one evolving. You play a token, which is amazing. And then the inherit when this Digimon with Diaboromon in text would leave the battle area, you can delete another Diaboromon and it doesn't leave, which is more protection. It's really good. You're definitely playing that as a 4 of. No reason not to. We have another Owen. We have a ton of these Owens. I think we already have 3 and we're only like maybe 2/3, not a half of the way through. It's kind of crazy. I do really like these Goblimon arts. The trio of Goblimon are really cute in my opinion. We're going, we have the new Appmon stuff. This Gomamon, which some people are saying looks very sultry. I think he just looks very sly and cheeky. I don't know why people have such a twisted brain. But anyway, we got a Nori. There's another one of the cards that I believe is key to the Olympus/Iliad strategy because of the Aegiomon. It has all turns when your security stack is removed from. By suspending this tamer, one of your Aegiomon may digivolve into a card with Aegiochusmon in its name in the hand without paying the cost. And then it also has the new effect to gain memory at start of main, which I think is really strong, which says if you have 4 or less memory, gain 1. So it always gains you that memory. It's not dependent on you having anything on the field. It's not dependent on your opponent having anything on the field, but you gain that memory regardless. For the downside of you can only gain up to 4. Because if you have 3, you gain 1, and then the next one that triggers, you're at 4, and so you don't gain 1. Sorry, if you have 4 or less, it only lets you gain memory up to 5, because it only triggers while you have 4 or less. I think that's pretty good. 5 is plenty memory, and that's better than being like, oh, well, I can put my opponent to 4, but then he gains 5 memory, and, well, he's at 9 now, and I'm screwed. And Raidramon. Yeah, Medicmon, Wanyamon, which is the Iliad Inherit. It's your turn. When any of your Iliad are played, draw one. I didn't go over that at the time. New cards, go through them. Skull Siegramon is a cool new Digimon that they made. I do like that they're messing around with the skull stuff more. I felt like it was a bit of an unexplored archetype because you had the Skull Greymon, and then other than that, you got a Skull Baluchimon, which is similar style. We have a Skull Satamon, but it's not quite as scully in its design. And then now we have Skull Seedramon. That's pretty cool. And a Master Blimpmon. But yeah, that's generally my feelings about this set overall. And what I'm going to be doing with this set. Let me know what you guys think. I do want to say that I want to... Oh, we have Rie and 7th Graviton for that Creepy 1X. I do want to say that I'm going to be making a video going over the different archetypes and some example deck lists of what I can come up with for these decks from this set specifically, and then I'm trying to minimize the amount of support you need to get from previous stuff. So here's actually we finally get the Lanamon, and you see, like I mentioned, it doesn't have any way to evolve from a tamer, which I find is very interesting. It evolves on a level 3, it evolves on a level 3 TS, and it evolves on Calamaramon. I guess maybe they finally learned their lesson. Ooh, Desipmon. I haven't seen this guy before. They're trying to mitigate how crazy hybrids can go. Um, I don't know how I feel about that. It feels a bit wrong, but I don't know. It's fine. It's not that big a deal if we just don't have that as an option for blue hybrid players. Blue hybrid players have enough anyway. Ooh, we got the Megidramon finally. It has a really cool effect that at trash and end of your turn, if you have 4 or fewer cards in your hand, one of your Dark Dragon or Evil Dragon trait may evolve into this card without paying the cost, and then it has Blocker. It also has on play when evolving and on deletion. Delete all your opponent's lowest level Digimon. The one thing I didn't mention about this line is that not only is it great for a Chaos Gallimon style deck, but also it's really good for the Heavy Metal Dramon deck. I don't know if they did that on purpose. They must have, because Heavy Metal Dramon already has a lot of uh, visual synergy with the Megidramon line, obviously. But then with those effects, it really extra synergizes. Like even Wargramon has from Trash Main, if you have 4 or fewer cards in hand, you just play it, reducing the cost by 2. So for 5, you could just play it out. If you have the Megidramon also, you just evolve it after that. Pretty good. Uh, Synergy for Dark Dragon / Evil Dragon, which is the keywords for the Liberator Metallic Dramon. Elekmon. And Elekmon here is just the searcher for TS, as well as when attacking, you may add your top security card to the hand, then if you have 0 security, you recover 1. So, can be strong. It's a weird way to draw, but yeah. You can always get an SP also, as we're going through this. But yes, I'm generally wanting to make a new video that will go over the archetypes and example deck lists for that. And then we have Shaman and, Creepymon X Antibody. This is actually a deck that I am interested in building. Just because Creepymon X Antibody seems strong, but we'll have to see how that goes. It has the trash on your turn when one of your Creepymon attacks. If your opponent has 10 or more cards in their trash, by evolving it into this card, without paying the cost, you trash your opponent's top security card. It's pretty strong. And then when evolving, delete all your opponent's lowest level Digimon. Then you may play 4 play cost total worth of Evil, Fallen Angel trait cards from your trash without paying the cost. For every 10 cards in your opponent's trash, you add 4 to the play cost maximum. So if they have 10 because of the trash your turn effect, then you get to go into this on the attack, which, if you recall, the previous Creepymon that was released has an end of turn this Digimon may attack. and then you get to play 8 cost worth of stuff at a minimum at that point, which is basically just another level 5 to start the shenanigans again. And obviously, since you're going into a Creepymon X, you can trigger the Creepymon option card, which I forgot to go over, but if we see it again, I will go over it at the end. Sonic, Shellmon, and the Crossroad Witch. And then the last pack, see, hopefully we get an SB. That would be the ideal, but I feel like it's unlikely just because of how odds work. We have Rie, and we got Neptunemon. Neptunemon has the ability to be played at a reduced cost if your opponent has 2 or more Digimon. On play, when evolving, you return all your opponent's Digimon with the fewest evolution cards to the bottom deck. So if there's 2 things that have 1 source, they all go to the bottom deck. And then all turns when this Digimon suspends, it can unsuspend. So you can do the shenanigans of attack, unsuspend, attack, or evade, unsuspend, evade. When any of your Digimon with TS or Aqua or Sea Animal and any of their traits would leave the battle area by your opponent's effect, by suspending this Digimon, they don't leave. So it's a protection unsuspend. And this protection, unlike the other ones, is not once per turn, but obviously is restricted to you suspending this guy, which he will unsuspend once per turn. So this actually could be a good extra top end for just Aqua Sea Animal decks in general, but also can be good to help support the Olympus 12. So here we go. We got Neptune, Creepy, Inori, Venus, Diaboro, Agio, Maruki. And then we got the In-Between Theater as an alt, which is really nice to see, and Jupiter. The only SRs we then missed are, if we go over here, we have the Medusamon, level 7. When evolving, you can trash any one of your opponent's security cards. Then this Digimon may unsuspend. So that's obviously really strong because you're going to be popping their Digimon. Then they're going to be playing tokens. Then you're going to be raid piercing over that token, which trashes a security card. And then you're going to be doing one check. And then in that check, you can then evolve. So you evolve into this. And then because you evolved into this, you get to trash one of their security cards and it's unsuspend. So now you've trashed 2 security cards and checked 1 and you're unsuspended. And then you have all turns when your opponent's security stack is removed from, you delete one of their Digimon. So you delete then the other token that you played. So you trash another one. And so you're at 4 security checks done. They probably have only 1 security left. And so at that point, you could do the last check with Styrakomon. And if you have the Rush level 5 plus an Owen that lets you end of turn attack, that's lethal. Bam, OTK. Alternatively, if you just played out a Searcher early on and did 1 chip damage, then they're at 4 to start with, and that's also lethal. So, looks pretty fun. That's why I'm going to be trying to mess around with it, but I have a bunch of friends that might be messing around with it too, so I might let them mess around with it first. We missed the Minervamon, the other Olympus 12 in this set. This one has the reduction if you have an Iliad trait Digimon or Tamer. So an even stronger reduction because it's so easy to just have a Tamer, so easy to just have a Digimon. And it has on play when evolving and on deletion. You may play one play cost 5 or lower Iliad trait card from your hand without paying the cost. And then to one of your opponent's Digimon, you Digivolve 1 for each of your Digimon. So you're playing a level 4, you're probably playing an Agiomon, and then you Digivolve. And then opponent's turn, all your Iliad trait Digimon have reboot and blocker. So everything that you attack with unsuspends and then can block. Pretty good for the deck. We'll see how much it gets actually utilized, but it's still pretty good. We have Hadesmon that we didn't see. It has Overclock with Appmon trait. So that's effectively like Sec plus 1, but it's better because it means that you can do the last check and then have lethal with the Overclock. And then when evolving, you may play 1 level 4 lower System or Life trait Digimon card from your trash without paying the cost. Then you may link 1 Appmon trait Digimon card from your hand or this Digimon's evolution cards to one of your Digimon without paying the cost. And then all turns when other Digimon are deleted, you may activate one of this Digimon's when evolving effect. And with that system or life restriction, just real quick, you probably want to play a Raydramon, the card I was talking about. It gives one of your Digimon with system life or transmutation Sec+1 for the turn. So that's the ideal target here. And since you're playing it from trash and it's already in this Digimon's line, it's very likely that you have it. At which point Hadesmon does 2 checks, and then when you overclock at the end of turn, you also can delete it to activate your one evolving effect to play it again, and that clears your opponent's security, and then you're just hoping to kill them on the next turn. And then we have the Titamon plus Skull Baluchimon, which has Rush, Piercing, and Execute. Great keywords for this strategy. On play, when evolving, when attacking, by trashing one card in your hand, delete all your opponent's Digimon with the lowest level. And then on deletion, which will delete itself because of Execute, you can play a Titamon or a level 5 or lower Digimon card with a Titan trait from your trash without paying the cost. And it has Assembly -6, which is really good because that means you could just play this whole thing for 8. If you started with like 5 memory, let's say, then you just bam, immediately hit them with the Rush Execute and you can play a Titamon. And then last but not least, you have Dan Yuki and Kanon Yuki. Start on your main. Again, it has that. If you have 4 or less memory, gain 1. And then by suspending this tamer at the end of turn, you can use a TS trait option with as high or lower a use cost as your opponent's memory from your hand without paying the cost. Then one of your Digimon with the TS trait may attack. So you're rewarding yourself now for getting the memory over. And so if you put them at 3, you get to use a 3 cost option, and so on and so forth. And then lastly is actually the secret rare I didn't go over, Homeros. This is the most terrifying one I've seen. It has a start of main, gain a memory, then if you have 5 or more memory, suspend this tamer and draw 1. And says this plus all your other TS stuff all trigger at the start of your main phase. You could choose to order them such that you either want the draw or maybe you don't want the draw. So you can order it as long as your opponent does not give you 4 memory. You can choose effectively, because then all turns gives all your TS trait plus 1k, and end of your turn by suspending this tamer, you may activate one on play or one evolving effect of one of your Olympus 12 trait Digimon, which I will remind you, the other Olympus traits in the past have all had the Olympus trait, which means that she can trigger the Venusmon's effect to give all your opponent's Digimon Sec -1, and the only way to get out of that lock of getting it triggered over and over and over again is by giving them 4 or more memory. That is terrifying, in my opinion, because on play and when evolving effects are generally designed to be triggered only once. Unless, of course, they are also given the when attacking keyword. I'm talking about things that are only on play and or when evolving. Because effectively what this is saying in shorthand is every turn you can give something minus 13k, for example, with the Jupitermon and recover +2. So you're always at high security cards and you're always giving something minus 13k until the end of their turn. And if you also keep in mind, if you're evolving the same turn, then you get to trigger it twice. So if you have a Venusmon deck and your opponent has Sec +1 to kind of get around the Venusmon's effect so that they can still threaten you with lethal, if you have Homeros out and they didn't put you to 4, I was going to say choke you, but it's the opposite of choke you. If they didn't memory flood you, then you can go up to a Venusmon, and on that turn you go up to the Venusmon, you activate her when evolving, and then also you activate the when evolving again at the end of turn with the Homeros, and at that point all your opponent's Digimon is Sec -2 and can't activate when evolving or when attacking, and they're kinda dead in the water. So a terrifying tamer to play against. I think this might be the return of option card removal, but I don't know what kind of option card removal you would need, because again, if they get a Jupitermon out, for example, you can protect one of your Digimon or Tamers by trashing your top security guard. Same with all the other Olympus 12 cards, which again, the Olympus 12 level 6s can evolve on a TS straight, but they can also just be played. So strong stuff, definitely strong stuff. Oh yeah, and the other thing I wanted to go over again was the 7th gravitation for the Creepymon. From the trash, when any of your Digimon evolve into Creepymon X Antibody, by returning this card to the bottom of the deck, you activate the main, which is delete one of your opponent's level 6 or higher. If you don't delete, you trash the top 3 of your opponent's deck. Not an amazing main, but you are deleting a level 6 or higher, and you are milling, which are both things that you want to be doing in the deck. Because if you do actually successfully delete a level 6, you are going to be adding that many cards into the trash, right? And so then the last thing I wanted to go is for anyone who is interested in getting a box. These are all the rares. You see there's 23 cards. And then when I go over what I got, you will see that we get one of each at minimum. And then it's an average of 2 per rare, where obviously sometimes you get 3 of, and sometimes you get 1 of. Here we have a couple 1 ofs and 2, 2, and then a couple 1 ofs, and then you have 3 here, 2, 3, 2, 1, and 2. So in general, the expected rate is 2 per, but you will actually get 1 of some and 3 of others. So for those of you who are interested in getting a box, this is why I generally tend to get 2 boxes, because I try to get play sets of everything, and so I get 2 boxes, which gives me almost a guarantee of a playset of all the rares. I sometimes have to get 1 rare here and there. And then for the SRs, you're going to get 7 out of the 12 SRs. So you're going to miss out on 5 SRs. And you're going to get 1 alt, and then either a secret rare regular or another alt. I generally like having a secret rare because I like to just fill out my collection, like I mentioned. And in this set, you get a promo box stopper that is 2 promo cards out of 6, and then 2 box stopper full arts out of 6 as well. So then after I get my 2 boxes, usually I'm picking up 2 to 3 of each SR, 3 to 4 of each secret, and 0 or 1 of each rare. But that's it for this video. Let me know what your thoughts are of the set. Look forward to my coming video where I'll be going over the different archetypes and example deck lists, mostly from cards in BT24 that you can build for these. And I'll see you next time.